We're here today at Thurston Quarter Horses to talk to Paul and Tammy Thurston about Western Pleasure and Hunter Under Saddle. They have a beautiful facility here, and they've agreed to take a little bit of time out of their busy day to teach us about these two disciplines and how we can learn to do them and maybe one day be the level that they are and actually show at the Congress or one of the world shows that are available for us. So come on over and let's take a look and see what they're doing.
So as we watch Mario move there at a trot, we're going to see something similar to what you would see in dressage as described as long and low. You're going to want him from his hip and his wither, his leg to move like a pendulum, his toes to stay close to the ground, and extend all the way out in stride. As far as our top line, you're going to want, or what is ideal, you're going to want from their wither to their ear to be strong across their top line, a nice level top line, a pleasant look in their head and neck, and a good strong what we call frame. As she moves off into the canter, or in the Western it's the lope, but in the hunt seat it's the canter. You're going to see that same solid top line, and you want to see the same movement at the canter as you do the trot. So as you watch their hind end, which is the drive for all the good horses, you're going to see from his hip all the way to his toe that the hind leg moves like a pendulum, and same way in the front. You're going to see from his wither all the way down to his toe, move flat across the ground, stay close to the ground, and what we call swing their legs. Mario has a little, what I call a nice little skip that he does, and for me, for the Hunter Under Saddle or the Western Pleasure, what I like to look at is I want to see a horse that looks like they could do what they're doing all day long. That it's not forced, that it's not something that is uncomfortable for them. But if I wanted to go from here to town, or from here to Rocky Mount, or 10 miles, that horse would be a nice, smooth, comfortable ride to go from point A to point B, whether it be on a fox hunt or a Sunday afternoon ride.
All right. Well, you can certainly see his legs swinging like a pendulum. That's a very, very good explanation. And I was thinking when you were talking about the frame, much like a dancer. You know, you get your frame and then you move your feet and your arms depending on what kind of dance you're doing. That's
exactly right. That's exactly right. A guy, early on in my training through my my apprenticeships, a guy described what he looked for in Western Pleasure and Hunter Under Saddle to be as though if a horse were a marionette hanging from a string and their legs just swung effortlessly, and that hanging from a string would be their top line, and their legs would swing like marionette legs as you're watching some play.
And in this particular discipline, you driving them more with your legs and your seat and not as much with your hands as well, aren't you?
That's right. Okay. That's right.
That's very, very beautiful. I can see why Tammy wins a lot.
This horse is, if Tammy could put a stall on the side of our bedroom where he could hang his head over our bed at night, she would have him in our house.
I can see that.
She really loves this horse.
He's a superstar, no doubt. So Tammy, that looked really easy. Why would I want to invest a lot of time and money in showing something that's obviously anybody can do?
That's a great question. That's a really good question. And you know, the thing that is so neat about this class is that looks really simple. It looks effortless and easy, and like it's just not a challenge at all. And that is the art form of what we do. And the Hunter Under Saddle and the Pleasure are really very difficult classes if you do them at the higher levels. You know, to get what you just saw right there, it took a year of training. And part of that training is some of the stuff that you don't see. For instance, for this horse to stand here with that camera, that is a big accomplishment. Horses are basically scared that everything that they come in contact with, it's going to eat them, that, you know, it's going to cause them harm. And so that flee instinct, that's something that we've really got to work hard to overcome. So just the general training, a lot of time is just spent, Paul and I, we like to call it country riding. And we'll just take them out, take them on the trails, ride them around, pony them, and just get them used to, you know, just things in general.
Right.
And then to also teach them to have self-carriage, where this horse is not constantly relying on me to give him every cue, to hold him up, to hold him in place. You know, I could pretty much pitch this horse away on a loose rein, and even though he's a hunter under saddle horse, he would carry himself. He would canter, pick his shoulders up, sit back on his hock, and that came from months upon months of you know, training and teaching him that self-carriage. Then you get into the finesse work, where to get that perfectly level top line, where they'll stay in that frame pretty much no matter what they're looking at, that takes a lot of work too. And it takes actually a lot more physical work than what you would see today. You're seeing the end product. Usually when I'm riding this horse, I'm riding him in a much shorter collected rein, driving him up through the bridle, almost something like if you would watch me ride, you would almost maybe think it was dressage maneuvers that I was working on. I do a lot of leg yielding and half passing, yielding the haunches in, turns on the forehands, turns on the haunches, stopping, backing up, and almost pattern-like work. And basically what you're trying to do is, again, build the strength, that self-carriage in the horse, and then teach them to do all of that, but yet in a soft, relaxed frame. A lot of dressage people, they talk about their horses going in a long and low frame, and that's kind of really how I get my horses to hold their head and neck in the way that they do, is that I'll do some very intense work where they're on the bit and really driving up through the bridle, and then when you release them, it's kind of a self-test. When you release those reins, what does the horse do? Do they instantly take off? Do they throw their head up? Do they put their head on the ground? It's one of those things that all of that very physical work lets you to be able to put your hand down and then to still have some contact with the bridle, but to have that self-carriage. For the rider that doesn't have day after day to dedicate to riding, this class is such a great class. And I actually have a lot of people that come from a hunter jumper background or a dressage background and switch to the quarter horse hunter under saddle, because they're still getting the forward, free flowing feel that you get when riding a hunt seat horse, but you know, it's not on a hot thoroughbred or horse that's their head is up in your face, and you know, it can be very intimidating. And it's so soft, the cadence that he has and the rhythm that he has, it feels like I'm riding in a rocking chair. And physically it's not as hard, where a hunter you've got to be up in a 2-point and physically you have to be so in shape. It's a little easier physically to just ride the hunter under saddle. Now it does still take the finesse and to know your horse and have that communication, but it's not as intimidating. A lot of times it's a softer feel, and you know, people just really enjoy that level of communication that they can still have with their horse, but at that softer, easier, more comfortable pace. There's a lot that goes into showing too. Your placement in the class is so important, because you can have the best horse out there, but if you do not get the right spot in the pen and the judge doesn't see you, you will never win a thing. And so that's a big part about knowing, you know, do you cut deep into the corner? Do you cut the corner off? Do you know, how do you show your horse off to the best of their advantage? And that's a huge achievement for our customers when they actually learn not how to ride their horse, but be able to present them on the same level that Paul and I can present them in the show pen.
That makes sense, because you have to learn to ride, but then I would guess you would have to learn to show just as well.
Absolutely.
So this is a class that kids and older people could easily get into and then grow into it with their level of their riding ability.
Absolutely, where you know, you might start off in 4-H, and if you can just walk, trot, and canter both directions, and that's great. You know, the horse maybe, there's not a lot of finesse with it, there's not that pretty top line, but then you can maybe move up to an open show, and then, you know, possibly a breed association show. And then each step you take, you know, from a weekend show to a national show, each step you take, you're working to have that perfect picture and that overall finesse. But it's a great entry-level class to get into. And then a lot of riders will go on from this to the equitation class, and that's a class where you're still riding hunt seat, but you would do a pattern along with it. And that class is only available to youth riders and amateur riders, but you might do a series of circles, speed changes, spins, posting and changing diagonals, lead changes, turns on the forehand, extension at the trot, collection, sitting trot, no stirrup work. And so it's a really nice place for people to come in and maybe start with the hunter under saddle, move to the equitation, and then, you know, maybe at that point, maybe they would actually like to go on and try the jumping. They feel safe, secure, and then they can move on to something.
Hunter hack.
Hunter hack would be a nice step, where there's only 2 jumps in that class. They're judged on the rail work and over fences. So this is a great entry point, and the horses are just so enjoyable and so pleasurable to ride.
As Miss Rodeo Virginia 2012, I had the opportunity to travel the country riding on many different horses and in many different saddles. But nothing compared to coming home and riding in uniquely my world-class saddlery saddle. From its unique dog flower tooling to the custom stirrups made just for me, the saddle fits me and my horses perfectly. So whether I'm out running barrels or in a parade, the saddle is both durable and beautiful. It can get the job done and still look good while doing it. I look forward to riding in my world-class saddlery for many years to come.
We're getting ready to have the North Carolina Southern Horse Festival, sponsored by the North Carolina Horse Council. It'll be the 5th annual festival this year. We've moved it back here to the Hunt Horse Complex in Raleigh, North Carolina, and the dates for the festival are November 22nd through the 24th. We hope that you guys will come out and enjoy us at all the fun. We've added Academy Horse Show classes this year. We've added walk trot classes this year. We'll have the traditional no bling quarter horse show, the open horse show. We'll have a trail challenge on Saturday. On Sunday, we have a trail challenge finale where we're going to award a Toro lawnmower to the winner, as well as all the high point awards that we've had this year. We're going to crown a brand new Miss Southern Horse Festival and a junior Miss Southern Horse Festival. There's just going to be tons of fun. So we hope that you'll come out and enjoy us. The event is free. Now we're going to show you a little bit of Western Pleasure, and Western Pleasure is a lot like what we just saw, but a Western version, a little bit more relaxed, a little bit more slower and easier pace. So Paul, tell us a little bit about the Western Pleasure class and what people are looking for.
The Western Pleasure class is very similar to the Hunter Under Saddle, a Western version, and the class is judged on conformation. It's judged on correctness of gait and slowness of speed. All of which, you know, or none of which is way more important than the other. Probably the most important part, I think, for most of us is that it's correctness of gait, that it's a nice relaxed walk, that it's a 2-beat trot, and that it's a correct 3-beat lope, which is the same as a canter, but for the Western horses. It's also judged on top line, fluidness, and, you know, presentation. You know, is it a pretty horse, or is it a you know, is it not pleasant to look at?
Right.
Our finished product is quite different than a dressage horse, but our methods, as far as bending, as far as leg yielding, all the methods of what we do is very similar to you know, what you would see probably day to day with dressage. A lot of side work, a lot of bending.
But we've got the extra level of difficulty because we're asking this horse to do this now on a loose rein.
That's what I was just going to say.
With no help
no
in their
visible cue.
help in their self-carriage, and you know, that really ramps it up, especially when you take them to an arena type setting where you've got kids running up and down the bleachers, you know, bottles rolling down the steps, umbrellas, plastic bags, the announcer and other horses. You put that into the equation and have to do all of that and take away the contact and do it on a loose rein, and that really amps up your level of difficulty.
Right. Well, he's very, very relaxed. Let's see a little bit of what he can do.
Sure.
First of all, I'd like to just talk about Moonshine. He is actually a 3-year-old, And as a 3-year-old, he is eligible for showing in 3-year-old classes. And that's something that Paul and I kind of specialize in, is taking young horses like him, 2-year-olds, 3-year-olds, and developing them for futurity classes. So he's a little greener. He is, he's actually only been shown 1 time, and he's getting ready to go to the Congress for his big debut. Really nice horse. Now what he's doing right now is what we call a jog for Western Pleasure, and what you're looking for is a true 2-beat gait, and that you see the diagonal pairs land and hit the ground at the same time. He is a very nice jogger because he can do this at a really slow pace, but without losing his cadence. You can see the 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. The other thing that's really nice about him is that he's got a really nice profile, or a top line. And what we're talking about is the horse from the tip of his nose all the way to the tip of his tail. Typically what you would like to see is the horse's ears to not go any lower than their wither. And you'll see time to time Paul does have to pick up his hand and help him, because he is a younger horse, and it is very difficult for them to carry that frame. Sometimes they're like us, they like to slouch a little bit, so they will drop their head below that below the wither line that we're looking for. They'll get a little too low, and so we have to go in with our hand and remind them to come up. Typically when you see a Western Pleasure horse whose head is really low and on the ground, that's really not what we're looking for. We want that nice level top line, and we'd like them to be really steady. We don't want them to pump their head and neck a lot. We want them to be very level. This horse maybe has a little bit of action in his head and neck, but again, he's a younger horse, and as he matures and gets stronger and stronger, he'll get stronger across that top line. But he is a lovely mover. You can see he's very deep in his hock. He takes a full stride with his front leg, really steps up there, and has got a really nice, lovely cadence. Again, we're looking for a true 3-beated gait, and so you'll see he'll push off with his hind leg, and then his diagonal pair will land together, and then the lead leg is the last leg and the leg to finish. What's really nice about him is his lead leg is not it's not shortened at all. He'll step all the way up. It almost goes past his nose, and so we're looking for them to have a true gait. Now, the thing that makes him such a nice horse is that he is able to do this so slowly. And if you look at Paul's body and see that there's not a lot of jarring, you can see how soft. Again, he's one of those horses we talked about earlier, almost that rocking chair feel. And it's just a smooth, comfortable, enjoyable ride. You can see as Paul's riding, he'll elevate his hand and ask him, hey, pick your head back up here, don't get too low, bring your nose back in. Because again, we're not looking for, in the Western Pleasure, for them having their heads on the ground or their noses you know, on the ground. We want them, again, to carry that nice level top line and to be very steady and have a lot of self-carriage where they're really flowing with their legs, that nothing is stubbed up or that he's not having his stride shortened at all.
Tammy, this horse is absolutely beautiful, and I know that I like him, and his looks put together well, but I really don't know much about conformation. Explain why he's good for this discipline.
Absolutely, I'd be glad to. And you bring up a really important point, because you know, this horse, we saw him move around and it was so nice, and he's very natural, and that's why you like to watch him, because it's not something that we had to teach him. We had to get him broke to do the commands, but he's so natural. And the reason it is, a big part of that has to do with his conformation. They talk about form follows function. And you know, the thing that makes this horse so pleasant to watch, and the front leg steps forward the way we like it to, the hind leg comes forward like we like it to, is a lot of how he's built. He's got a really nice shoulder angle. A horse that has a very steep shoulder angle, they might pick their legs up and not be able to stride out and be very marchy. He's got a nice slope to his shoulder where he's able to extend that shoulder and take a full step, and but it's not such a deep slope that he's huge strided and would be way too big to be able to go the speed that we would need him to. His neck ties in. Like you can see him standing here. Like this horse, you know, he probably came out of his mama with his head level. You know, that's where he's comfortable holding his head and neck. And his neck ties in. It doesn't tie in too low. It ties in beautifully. And then you can see his head and neck are very, very well proportioned to the rest of his body. And that's really important because, you know, if you've got a horse with a really long neck or a really short, fat neck, it just doesn't all tie together really well. A pretty head that fits the shape of his body. His angles, he's not set up too upright on his feet, and he's not set down. You know, he's got a really nice angle. His hock. Paul, you want to talk about the hock a little bit, what we look for?
For me, the hind end is one of the more important parts of the horse. I like to look at a horse that has what I call a trapezoid body shape. So their hip angle and their shoulder angle are the same, and their body is made in the shape of a trapezoid. Most of the time with those types of horses, their hock hangs what I call straight underneath them. So from their tail, you would like their hock to be straight down and their cannons to go straight down from that. That allows the horse to stride up under themselves and have the push and the rhythm that that you need to be able to complete the class properly.
The other thing is that we would call this horse low hocked. If their hocks are up higher, they're not going to be able to move their hock in the fashion. They might be a little jabbier with their hock or shorter strided, but he's low hocked. And this is important not just for the pleasure, but almost all disciplines that they're hocks.
Most all disciplines.
And then where his leg comes out from his hock, that it's not what we would call sickle hock, and his leg has a really deep set to it. It comes out nice and straight out of the hock, and so all those little things work together. Plus then he's just got a really pretty shape. He's nice and round, but he's not overly bulky or muscular, and he's a good weight. You know, Paul and I, we have a tendency, we do like our horses a little bit on the chubbier side, because when we eat and are full, we're happier, and we feel that the horses are the same way. So we do like to keep them a little heavier, a little fatter, and we just think it's a lot prettier look when they're nice and round and filled out.
Right. Well, he's very, very balanced. I mean, you can certainly see that, and that was a great explanation, because if you're in the market to buy a horse, you kind of need to know these things, because a lot of these factors keep the horse from turning up lame or not even being able to do the discipline that you might want to put him into.
Absolutely.
So great tips. Very good tips.
Absolutely.
The North Carolina Horse Council was established in 1972. We are a nonprofit organization that puts every dollar received back into supporting and working for our members. We are a volunteer organization that is supported by people just like you, with passion and energy.
Hi, I'm Sue Gray, Executive Director of the North Carolina Horse Council, and I'd like to share with you today a few reasons of why I would like you to join us. We are your voice. We work on rules and regulations that help you use and enjoy your horses each and every day. There's power in numbers. We have over 306,000 horses in North Carolina, making us 8th in the nation. We also have over 53,000 households owning horses with multiple owners within those households. And we are a $2 billion industry, adding to the economics of the state of North Carolina. Power in numbers. We ask you that we can go and help to protect those privileges as we move forward. But we do more than that. We also do grants, and we help to preserve land and protect our trails, and we support youth groups and other equine associations throughout the state.
We welcome you to join us and be part of the largest and most active horse council in America.
You
guys have such a nice facility here. Tell our viewers what and all services that you offer so that if they want to get in contact with you and maybe take lessons, explain what we do.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, we offer training services to the public. We're not really a boarding facility or a boarding barn, but you would board your horse here if you wanted training. And Paul, do you want to elaborate on what that entails?
Sure. Training involves lessons, us basically training the horse and you as the rider to compete against other people doing the same thing. With the training, that's full care, board, feed, we'll blanket and take care of as you would a show horse. And when the horse is at a level where it's ready, we offer lessons that are included with the training, and we carry people to quarter horse shows, futurities, any level that you want. We show both regionally here in anywhere from Georgia up through New Jersey, North and South Carolina, Virginia, and we also make a few trips out west to Texas, Oklahoma, Ohio, as we have horses and clients that are interested in that.
The types of horses that we take are predominantly stock type horses, Western or hunt seat type horses, and we take a wide range. We start off, a lot of times people will send their yearlings to be to start them with some of the groundwork that comes before saddle breaking. Even though we show, we are really firm believers in starting them with a natural horsemanship background. We do a lot of groundwork and really prepare them on the ground because it just makes everything so much easier when you're ready to climb up on their backs. It's amazing. We've done it both ways and have really figured out that natural horsemanship background just makes all the difference in the world in their training as a 2-year-old. One of our favorite things or areas to focus on is futurity horses, which those are 2- and 3-year-olds, and so we really enjoy the process of breaking them and then taking them to their first shows, showing them in those futurity classes. But we also have a lot of older horses, senior horses, and some of our best, most solid citizens are those older horses, and so we do ride all ages, all levels. You don't have to have a very high dollar expensive show horse. We've even had some 4-H kids that have started out with us that maybe wanted to move up to the next level of showing. We can be reached at www.thurstonquarterhorses.com.
I've learned so much about Western Pleasure and Hunter Under Saddle, and not only that, but what to look for if I'm buying a horse for whatever discipline that I want to do. So if you listen really carefully, you'll hear the sound of Carolina Hoofbeats in the background, and I hope you'll join us again next week for our next adventure.
This episode of Carolina Hoofbeats TV was made possible in part by funding received from the North Carolina Horse Council, a North Carolina nonprofit corporation dedicated to representing and furthering the common interest of the entire equine industry in all 100 counties of North Carolina. Carolina Hoofbeats is brought to you in part by Newcomb Quarter Horses. Newcomb Quarter Horses with over 40 years experience. Find out how we can help you today. NewcombQuarterHorses.net. And by World Class Saddlery. Custom saddles, repairs, custom tack, and personal leather items. Find out more at worldclasssaddlery.com. And also by Carolina Hoofbeats Magazine, a free publication about the horse industry in North Carolina. Catch up on the latest issue at carolinahoofbeats.com.
Saddle, nothing else matters. My feet in the stirrups, I'm so happy. There's nothing like the sound of Carolina Hoofbeats. Sitting high in the saddle, nothing else matters. My feet in the stirrups, I'm so happy. There's nothing like the sound